I think hundreds is a different situation, and hopefully we'll still be mates by then. So who knows? We just need to make sure.
Who knows?
We still got to make sure we like each other with the amount of time we're spending away from home as well. So I think that's going to be important.
Welcome back to the Sports Dentistry Podcast. It's our 50th episode, Umair. Do you think we would get this far?
Not really. In terms of the amount of time it's taken us to get to the 50th episode after we released 49, I was hoping we'd probably get it done a bit earlier, but there's been a lot of stuff going on. I think we've been...
Yeah, well, you keep on going on these trips. Like, we were getting good momentum, and then you were off to South Africa for 2 weeks and living your life.
You can't just blame it on me. You're the one who's been around in the way as well, so you're a hard man to track down and get hold of. But no, look, really excited that we're at the big 5-0, so 50 not out, and we've got some stuff to look back on. I think it's really good that we can reflect on the first 50 episodes and kind of where it's taken us to and the people that we've met, the people that we've spoken to, and maybe look forward to the next 50 because we need to continue to build. And we've obviously had our overseas trips that we've managed to take it abroad, which is something that we never thought we'd be able to do so early on. We kind of got not shoved into it, but almost kind of put ourselves out there and said, if we're going to try it, we need to go all in. So I think there's been a big learning curve with respect to the live podcasts and the live video and the live audio, but things are starting to look a little bit brighter on that front, with Phillips now really giving us a good back end and a better direction in terms of where we're going to be taking things for the rest of the year, certainly.
In sports dentistry, it's not just about treating injuries. It's about optimizing oral health for peak performance.
That's right, because when athletes push their limits, every detail matters, even their oral health.
That's why the Sports Dentistry Podcast is being powered by Philips, true innovators in oral health technology.
Philips Sonicare toothbrushes use advanced sonic technology to disrupt plaque biofilm, removing up to 20 times more plaque than a manual brush.
And that's critical for athletes. With high carb diets, dry mouth, and frequent energy supplements, they're at greater risk of caries and gum disease.
Philips backs evidence-based dentistry, giving us tools that fit perfectly into performance-driven treatment plans.
So whether you're helping your athletes recover, protect, or perform,
elevate your protocol with Philips.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good. And a little bit of the delay for the 50th was a live podcast that hasn't come through. So I did a live podcast at the dental show in Birmingham with a fantastic guest, Laura Keats, World Cup winner with England Rugby, now a dentist. Really interesting story, completely different than our good friend Elizabeth Craig's story as well. Our different paths into becoming a dentist as they were going down the rugby path. So that was really interesting. So we're still hoping to get that audio back from it, which would be disappointing if we lose it, but we'll do a separate catch up with Laura as well, because it's a great story. But them live podcasts have been quite interesting. We started them off in Dusseldorf when we used your own tech and we were scrambling a wee bit with the tech and the visuals and stuff. And then we went out to EDAC in January and they provided us with a full professional setup. So it was completely different, took a lot of stress off us. And then our latest adventure into the live one was working with the dental show in Birmingham, but we've had quite a few technical difficulties with that. So it's a great learning curve for us. And we would definitely want to bring our live podcast to a lot of these Sports Dentistry Association events so we can try to showcase all the good work the sports dentists are doing. We've spoken in the past and we've talked about how it took us a little bit of time to get to our 50th, just with different commitments. And we've spoken in the past about trying to get that balance right between clinics and traveling and going spend time with family, and then also with going to these conferences and doing different things. And unfortunately, that's all come to a head. We've slowed down the podcast a little bit, but also I wasn't able to make it to ASD, which just happened this weekend as well over in San Diego. We had big plans this time last year, talking about how we might do a trip and link it in with the World Cup. And you've got your Scottish jersey on now for the big win last night.
The big win this morning, actually. This morning for me. So So I was up this morning to watch the game. listen, a win's a win. I think that's the most important thing kind of going forward. But yeah, it's one of these opportunities that if I'm not going to be out there, I still want to kind of support them from home. And I've got so many good friends. I was speaking to you a few days ago, just saying how many of my good friends are actually out there, and the buzz. Literally, all the Scottish fans have taken over Boston, and it's basically like a mini Scotland in Boston. And I think all the Americans are certainly loving it because, you know, the Scots do bring a good vibe, bring good energy, a bit like the Irish as well. And I think the Americans have really have taken to them, and it's good to see that a number of international teams who I suppose you wouldn't think of as football nations like kind of Haiti and South Africa and to be fair, Australia as well. They put in a really good performance a few days ago too. So, but with the football World Cup going on, we did talk about potentially going out to Mexico and San Diego at the same sort of time. But I think with all the other curveballs that got thrown in with ADEC and various other things, just didn't happen this year. However, we have talked about next year, but we need to make sure that we continue to build on our brand and build on the podcast and build on our guests just to keep it engaged. And you've had a lot of good feedback from the ASD. Obviously, you're not there this year, but you've been speaking to the people out there and they've been giving some good feedback about the podcast, and they're quite keen to see it grow from their perspective as well. And multiple other associations have been reaching out and saying, look, can you help us, and are we able to come on the pod? And I think it's just trying to now find that time where we're able to give everybody a voice. And there's a lot of good associations coming up in terms of second conferences, third conferences, but also ones that are just starting to try and take lift off as well. So going on from the ASD, what's been the feedback so far from the delegates that have been there and from your colleagues that are on the committee there as well?
Yeah, no, it's been good. So started off, even though I wasn't there, I did sit through a 6.5 hour committee meeting on the day. Usually have the board meeting the day before everything kicks off on the Wednesday. So I wasn't able to make it there in person, but I did do 6.5 hours online. So a lot of positive feedback in the podcast. And we've spoke about the momentum Sports Dentistry has, and that's showing because the ASD has doubled its membership, almost doubled its membership numbers in the last year. So there is a lot of momentum out there for sports dentistry. So San Diego, great city, been before. I'm very jealous, getting a good bit of FOMO from the videos and the photos that are being posted around various WhatsApp groups of people over there having a good time. But it's just it's really getting the planning, isn't it? San Diego, it's a day there, a day back, 11 hours time difference is a little bit tricky. So we've got a few things coming up. We've got Naples in 2 weeks, and we've got Flavia coming on as a guest in our next episode. She's going to talk about Italy, what's happening in Italy and Naples. And then we've got a board meeting there for the European Association of Sports Dentistry. But then we've got our own one in the UK the following month in July at the Commonwealth Games, and I'll be working at the Commonwealth Games. So that really sort of prevented me from getting to San Diego because I need to take a week out of clinic to provide support for the Commonwealth Games, and therefore it's hard to take a week out of clinic to go to San Diego and then only a few weeks later take another week out of clinic. It's trying to get that balance right. It's difficult at times, but we're definitely planning for next year. There'll be no Commonwealth Games next year. So next year we're going to it's in Ranelagh, Carolina. I think it's North Carolina.
Yeah, it's North Carolina.
It's North Carolina between North and South. So going to North Carolina. And what's also very positive is Aer Lingus are now doing direct flights from Dublin to Ranelagh because the college team is coming to play in Dublin for the Aer Lingus College Classic that happens every year. So they take two different teams, college teams. And this year, the Carolina team that the ex-Pats Ben Belichick is now the head coach of, he's coming over to play. So Aer Lingus have now set up direct flights. So that's going to make it a little bit easier for me.
Nice.
As well.
So is that something that they're going to be doing more regularly then, is it? Or is it just a one-off sort of time frame that they're going to be having that?
I presume they'll go regularly. They'll probably do it something like Cleveland where they do it 2 or 3 days a week. They'll do flights to Florida. And they've just opened up Pittsburgh as well after the success of the Steelers coming in and playing a game in Dublin last year. There's links there now between Dublin and Pittsburgh. So Aer Lingus have opened up a few more options. So it's making it a little bit easier to get to the ASD events. So, but we are planning big things for Ranelagh next year. We're hoping to take the pod out and things like that, so to make up for this year. So looking forward to that. And looking forward to Glasgow, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, it's just a few weeks away now. And I think the Commonwealth Games, with regards to it being in the public eye, is really just starting to build here now. Certainly, you can see a lot of adverts and a lot of things coming out. And it's one of these things, it's not until the games start or an event starts, like the World Cup, for example, then you start to feel the buzz. And then you start to think, oh, I wish I was going, or I wish I was doing this. And, you know, I wish I'd already planned to make that event. And I think that's where I'm just trying to kind of push a little bit more. We know that dentists and therapists and hygienists and dental care professionals like to book things last minute. So really conscious that we want to just kind of push the numbers up a little bit more, because we've almost filled the room that we've booked for the conference. So I think just a few weeks out, just getting the last little bits and pieces, really good speaker list lined up. And obviously we've got the gold medal para powerlifting event to go to as well, along with the networking and dinner prior to that. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to show Glasgow in a very good light, because when the Commonwealth Games was in Glasgow last time in 2014, it really left a big mark on the city and Scotland in general. And it's nice to be going back. Obviously, but it was meant to be in Victoria. They pulled out. So classic Scots, we just come in and, you know, take over and just show them how it's done.
Yeah, definitely. So I remember working at the last Glasgow one, and it was a fantastic event. I mean, it's a slightly smaller town, but it still got all the events in the SECC, which was a great area the last time as well, and that's where the powerlifting is going to be. So it's looking good to be a good event. And then another reason why it was difficult to go to ASD is because that you forced us into travelling again. So shortly after Glasgow, only a couple of months after Glasgow, we'll be heading down under if all goes to plan.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the momentum with that is going really well, and we're in a good position kind of 5 months out, which is good. And it's one of these things, another really powerhouse with sport, Australia, New Zealand, it makes sense after South Africa. And I suppose because of the success of South Africa, it kind of made us realise that there is a great opportunity to do it in places like that, where they're really proud sporting nations, and we know they've got really good clinicians out there. They know we've got a really good sporting medical setup there. It's just about finding that balance between going in and helping it get off the floor. But the most important thing is about maintaining that and building on that year upon year. And we've talked about quite a few times that all roads lead to Brisbane Olympics, and making sure that by 2032, certainly there's a really good, tight knit, close infrastructure between the medics, dental care professionals, and if we've got a helping hand in that, certainly just to get it off the ground and get it running, then, it's something that I'll look back on and say, we had a hand in it. But it's really important that we, from sitting here in the UK and trying to manage these things, is difficult because there's a lot of early meetings, getting up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and doing these calls or doing it late at night. But it's all worth it because the drive is there. As you know, my patience is probably not my strong point. So I like to get things.
That's an understatement.
So I like to get things going. I like to get things. I don't like to sit and wait. I like to kind of make sure that the momentum's going, and obviously a lot of ideas start floating about with that as well. And I suppose it's just because they always say strike while the iron's hot. And you just mentioned there, they've just doubled the members in ASD in the last year. And it'd be silly not to try and continue that momentum, not just here in the UK or in ASD, but certainly kind of worldwide, and our colleagues that are listening kind of all over the world who are looking at setting up associations or setting up organisations or trying to do their next event. We're very keen to kind of help them because we want to really continue to promote. This is a global kind of team. We should all be doing it together for the greater good rather than doing it individually. I think we should all kind of work together to try and showcase our skills, because I think as each individual association does it together, it's a compound effect, and then how the medics then see that to say, actually, sports dentistry is here and it's here to stay.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the slight difference between Australia and South Africa is that there is a lot of good sports dentistry being done in Australia. It's just not coordinated. So there's a lot. It's a little bit like what we were in the UK. A lot of people doing it, and they're a bit isolated, and they're doing it on their own. It'd be good to get this association, so it gives a platform for these people to come together and network and grow. And even long before 2032. We've got the Rugby World Cup next year in Australia, and having a network of dentists that can support that and support in the stadiums, the location where the stadiums the matches are going to play, just in case of worst case scenario. A little bit like the FIFA World Cup now. It'd be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to getting the feedback. What actually ended up happening. I had a good conversation with Emilio Canal last year about the planning for it and about how FIFA wasn't maybe taking it as serious as we would like them to be. And I believe what they have done is looked at where the stadiums are and maybe used supports that are already in place in them stadiums. But it'll be good to get the feedback after the Soccer World Cup to see how they were able to do that. But definitely from an Australia point of view, they've got quite a lot of big competitions coming up as well, like the Rugby World Cup next year. So being able to try to provide a network and an association there that'd be very easy for organisers to tap into to get that support will be good. And then we're going back. We're only going to be back over our jet lag, and we're hopefully going to go back out to Cape Town for round 2.
For round 2, yeah, and the committee with South Africa, there's been everybody's been very supportive, and they've been very much looking forward to building on last year, and that's what we talked about. Is yep, it's all very good getting the first one going, but what's the feeling going to be like for a second conference? And I think from speaking to Babak recently, he's saying there's a lot of people asking about, you've got to save the date out, what's happening, where is it going to be, and can you give us a bit more detail about who's speaking and all that sort of stuff? And in classic form, we're just obviously looking at so many other things, and we're just trying to get things in motion. So for the people from South Africa who are listening, hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll be able to get some more information out there. But
it showed you how good South Africa was, because we have had conversations about what should we do this time, should we change it up, should we maybe do it here, and maybe should we do the whole thing in Cape Town so then people don't have to travel. And the feedback was, it was that good, can we not just do the exact same thing again? So yeah. I think that's the planning, is the day before the Cape Town Sevens, we're going to go back out to Stellenbosch, out to the High Performance Institute there that we had it the last time, and do a really good Sports Dentistry Conference day, with the focus being on oral trauma and making sure people have the confidence and the competency to be able to provide that for their local teams and stuff. And then back to the Cape Town Sevens the next day, and a great day in Cape Town. It's actually a nice way to almost end the year as you're coming up into Christmas time, start of December. It's almost we're almost finishing out the year now. We'll get back with a few weeks in clinic, and then we're off for Christmas. So it's a nice time of year, because we were chatting there the other day about all the different things we do have coming up. We're quite busy with something on almost every month.
Yeah.
Between now and
listen, you've changed your tune on South Africa. This time last year, you were like, I'm not doing this. Now you're the one driving it.
No, it was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks after Dusseldorf. So I was like, I'd only just got recovered from Dusseldorf. We're jumping on a flight again to go, a 12-hour flight. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the flight, but it was fantastic. A few days we had out there last year. And anybody that is thinking about going, wants to see a different part of the world, wants to get a little bit more experience or education or discussion on oral trauma and sport, and particularly with the rugby and stuff, with South Africa's quite big in the rugby, so there is usually a lot of rugby sort of medical staff and stuff supporting these events as well. It's great for networking. Put it in the diary, plan it to go, because it was a really, really good weekend we had last year.
Yeah, and plus it's the depth of winter here, and it's beautiful sunshine and nice and warm there, and it's a lovely place. And I think there's probably many places like that where we're kind of looking at it, and we've got to think, it's give people an opportunity to travel the world and be able to do some CPD, but also at the same time get to see different parts. And we've had some discussions about some other areas that we probably want to try and pursue and look at as well. But I think where do you stop? You're always looking for the next big thing, and sometimes I'm probably guilty of that, where I'm just like, actually, we've got some really good stuff going on here. We need to obviously maintain and really build on that as well. But then when people are asking you for advice, or they want you to come and help them, it's hard to say no. Like, to give advice, you want to be able to help. You're like, oh, I would love to do a little bit more with you, and I want to try and do that. But then before you know it, it's like, you're going to be going away this weekend, you're going to be going for this week, and need to start getting passes in to the family and say, well, I'm going to be going there. But But this is why we did it. This is why we got involved with sports dentistry. Certainly in the last few years, where it's really taken off. And I think that we need to keep driving that message across, that yes, we're still in its infancy in terms of how in other countries, how the medics portray sports dentists. I want to kind of get the crux of that, and people like Flavia, when we get her on, maybe we can ask her what she talks about and the relationship she has with the medical staff in Italy, and some of our other colleagues in other countries, because I think we're very lucky here, certainly in the UK. We do tend to have quite a good relationship, and we are seen as adding value to the team. But I really want to see what it's like in other parts of the world, because that's where we need to kind of look at how do we build on that. And I think the only way we can build on that is by the medics seeing these conferences, these associations coming up and having the medics speak at it, because that's the one thing that I've taken away from South Africa and Australia and New Zealand, is that the medics who have spoken and who are going to speak are like mad keen. They're like, I want to meet the people. I want to meet the people that I want to be working with. I want to meet these professionals, because that's where the networking and the communication happens, and that's where you can get your foot in the door, and you can then start providing sports dentistry to sporting organisations and athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And I had another meeting this morning. It seemed that all of us have meetings these days. So the meeting this morning was the planning for Lisbon 2027, and that's the combination of EcoSIP and EF4SD, which is another great example of how sports medics and sports dentists have been able to interlink, and it's being held in Aigos Mondays. I definitely pronounced that wrong. The university out there, which you'll be glad to know. Our good friend Andre was saying this morning is only 10 minutes from the beach. So
yes.
And the sun will be pretty good at that stage as well. So it'll still be nice and warm end of September out next year in Lisbon. So, but it is, and I think Flavia's association as well is a joint association with sports medicine and sports dentists, and it is definitely the way that us as sports dentists, for us to grow, we need that combination where we have that relationship with them. Definitely, and we see it when we're working with athletes. It's so important to have a strong connection with the lead medic and the sports medic, or whoever is leading the medical side of things, whether that's the head physio or the sports medicine doc themselves.
Yeah, and another thing, actually, just to bring this up, is recently I was in doing some screening and doing some scanning for various national teams here, and the support that we've had from some of the big dental companies in supplying various products. For example, Dentsply Sirona supplying the prime scans, and boutique supplying us with whitening and stuff. I think we need to actually explain to clinicians or healthcare professionals that actually, see, if you contact your local reps for whatever it is, whether it's for scanners, whether it's for materials, whether it's for something else, you'll be surprised. They'll be like, "Oh, I didn't really know about it either." Like, as in, I'm talking about like kind of bigger brands, or some of the bigger brands who are able to facilitate helping you. So if you've got local reps, that if you are thinking about doing something with a local organization, with a local team, whether it's even a local lab, you should really reach out to them and see how much they can help you, because that's another way of building up a team and building up people around you who are able to then help facilitate providing that quality of care to your athletes. And I suppose that's something that's really come to light because the conversations that I've had recently, and really how helpful they have been. And without their guidance and without their products and without their help, a lot of this screening that I've just recently finished would not have been able to happen, because I think the support on the day, in the lead up to it, and the support on the day, just made it run so smoothly. And then the organisations are seeing, like, you guys are a very well drilled unit. It was a lot of stress getting things ready and getting it going, but I think that really serves as a nice kind of base to kind of go for going forward with other organisations. Certainly within here, I'm talking about Scotland, people down south, people over the world, these big companies. If you reach out to them and you ask them, like, I'm thinking about doing a screening with this squad or this team, would you be able to help me or supply me with X, Y, and Z? And you might be surprised. They might come out and say, actually, yeah, that's something we would want to do. Let's trial it, see how it goes. And that can really give you a foot in the door, because if you've got major brands kind of, or labs or companies backing you, it really gives a sense of worth.
Yeah, and just to give people an example of that, if you're not maybe used to doing a lot of screening, the likes of things that usually used was like a scanner company. So a company that can provide a scanner, so you can do scans on players. If you have a disposable materials company, so you can get disposable examination kits for helping out with the screens. And then, of course, you were able to get your good friends, Pam and Julie, to help out with the boutique whitening, and got the Scottish girls all a nice set of whitening trays and whitening gels for going out to the World Cup. So these are the kind of things, if you are working with these types of companies, that they'll really help as well, and they really help support you doing it. So I think that was the types of things you were able to get good support on, wasn't it? It was somebody to help with the use of scanners, so then particularly like a lot of people maybe have scanners now, but if you're trying to do a whole squad, it's good to have multiple scanners available that to help out and just to work through that squad. And then the disposable kits, and then the little bit of an add-on that you used at this time was the whitening.
Yeah, it was good because obviously there was four of us sports dentists on the day, and there was the two scanners that we had going. We also had the third scanner, the new Prime Scan, but the Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough for it to link up. So we thought that's fine. The two scanners.
And is it just on it so that it needs Wi-Fi? It can't be like offline.
It can be offline. It can be offline, but the new Prime Scan I think works at its best when it's completely wireless. The new one. And I think it's to do with the Wi-Fi connection in terms of how it picks up and things like that too. But the other ones that we had were the ones with the wired ones, which are totally fine offline. And then once you get to Wi-Fi, then you can upload the scans, so that's not a problem. So we had the two sports dentists doing the scanning, then the other dentist would be explaining the whitening and the whitening gels and going to the consents with all that sort of stuff. And then the other dentist would just be there answering any questions about oral health and things like that. So actually, we're lucky because we've got that support network in terms of the number of sports dentists here. But I think doing something like that by yourself is, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's extremely hard because the players are just coming in at times that are available to them. So we've got a slot. So you have a slot, say it was, the slot was like 2:30 till 5 or 5:30, something like that. And then Raj and CMOs basically, look, the girls know that they're to come in this time. So they might just come in like dribs and drabs, they might come in all together. You guys will be here available. Goes, yeah, no worries. So at the start, Sarah came up first. We spent about 10-15 minutes with her. And then all of a sudden there was like 4 girls came all at the same time. Yeah. And then there was nobody for a while. And then there was like 7 of them. And then some of them were hanging about for a little bit. So then instead of them just hanging out, doing nothing, actually we just talked about stuff, and we talked about oral health, and we went through other sorts of bits and pieces as well. So I think doing it by yourself, unless you can't have them all at the same time if you're scanning, because they're just sitting waiting, doing nothing. So they do need to have different times to come in. And for example, when we scanned the IMGs for the Scotland the 20s, so it's me and Azzy were doing it, so it was 2 of us. So we'd have 2 players at this time, and then 10 minutes later would be the next 2, and then 10 minutes later so you can either go the rigid kind of structure where it's like 2 players coming at this time, 2 players coming at this time, 2 players coming at this time if you've got 2 scanners, or you've kind of got, if there's more of you, then they can come in dribs and drabs, because we had the whitening as well at the same time and the oral health kind of station. It was kind of more, we were able to accommodate more players at the same time. So I suppose you'd have to look at your own network, or not your own network, you have to look at your own situation in terms of who you're dealing with, what time frame do you have, and how many of you are actually doing it. Because if you're doing it by yourself, you'd have to put a lot of planning into it. You probably almost need to take like,
well, depends. Say in the other 20s, I had a good laugh at you talking about how you use an Aussie or doing it, because I would go and do the Irish on 20s and it's 5-minute slots. So as the back of their day, usually go in, we'll do training during the day. They get back to the hotel about 6, set up, and from 6:30 then onwards, they'll just pop over. But they usually have 5-minute slots, or we'll do it during that hour window when they're getting something to eat, and they'll just pop over.
Yeah.
So I'll be sitting at the back of the room that they're getting fed in, and do it that way as well.
That just shows you there's different ways of doing it. Like I'll do it differently to what you do, but I suppose that comes down to the organisation of the board, or of the Irish or Scotland or Wales, whatever it is.
I think it's a lot of it's down to the lead medic, or like, because like a lot of it depends on how well organized they have the team as well, and their dormant
Yeah.
structures and stuff. And you find people that have really organized setups they're able to slip you in quite easily, give you a slot, get everything organized, chase players to make sure that they're there on time. And then other ones that maybe don't have the same sort of control, it's a wee bit more, as you said, dribs and drabs. You get one or two, and then like a bunch of them will come in together, and you're sort of stuck. Because I've noticed that as well at different times. But it's good. But I was almost a wee bit jealous of your setup because it was more of a team event, and it looked like a bit more enjoyable. And it is quite isolating and lonely when you do go out by yourself and you're doing it all, and because it might look from social media, oh, you're in and you're in it, but like you're in doing the work, you're in doing the scanning, you're busy, they're away, and next thing you're back in the car and you're away again, and it's different. Where if there's a bit of a team event, it's a bit more enjoyable because there's a group of you going through it. So no, there's definitely different ways, and the more and more awareness that we can make with the sports mathematics, the importance of it, whether that's scanning for IMGs or all mouth guards, right to the screening, to making sure that we're preventing any issues down the line, the better. So anybody that is looking at any advice or hasn't got it and they're trying to get into something, don't be afraid to reach out to myself or Umair. We'll be more than happy to advise and help and put you in contact with different people if needed to try to make that as easy process as possible, because it is difficult and it's a wee bit daunting when you're going in that first time to do it. It's quite easy to feel like you have imposter syndrome or you're overthinking and you're nervous. It does take a wee while to get that experience, to get that confidence before things just flow and become easy.
We are delighted to have Ionate as a sponsor for the Sports Dentistry Podcast. Are you looking for a water bottle that's built to keep up with your active lifestyle? Look no further than Ionate, the totally leak-proof water bottles with triple lock technology to prevent spills no matter where you're headed. With a simple one-touch opening mechanism, you can sip on the go without hassle. Plus, Ionate's sleek modern designs are not only functional but can be personalised just for you. Made from high quality steel, these bottles are easy to clean and best of all, they're sustainable. From 320ml to 1200ml, Ionate has the perfect size for you, whether you're just out for a jog or going on a long hike. And it doesn't stop at the water bottles. Ionate also has travel mugs and flasks to keep your drinks just right wherever you are. Ionate have officially licensed water bottles for the NBA, NFL, MotoGP and British and Irish Lions, so you know you're getting the best. I have been using the bottles for a long time now and cannot recommend them highly enough. So head over to www.ionate.co.uk to get your hands on the best bottles in the business, bar none. Now back to the pod.
Yeah, and even things like, consent and questionnaires and getting those sort of things ready and making that a slick process. And again, I did a little bit of research, and between the people that we know, we were able to kind of put some ideas together to see how we were going to make this very streamlined. Because athletes, they don't want to be sitting about and filling out things, and it's a total pain. They want everything digital, everything's sent to them so they can just click a few things and that's it. Again, on the day, we were very lucky that all the consents and the kind of questionnaires were already pre-sent to them. So it was all done. So when they arrived, we knew that was all done, all sorted, and then we could type their details in, and then we can carry on doing our actual whole and focus on that rather than focusing on the other. Oh, can you sit here? Here's 4 pieces of A4 paper. Can you answer these questions? It's just like, for goodness sake, I don't want to be doing this. I've got a game tomorrow, and I don't want to be sitting here doing this. I want to be just getting things done. So in their own time, they can do it, or even the lead up to that. Back of that, and from what you've done with your screening that you've done in the past as well with the swimmers and various other teams, I think we actually do have a really good way of doing it, and a very slick way of doing it, being able to gather the data. And although I've not had a chance to actually interpret the data and put it all together, all I was kind of doing there was to make sure that there was no player in the red zone prior to the World Cup, which just started yesterday. Actually, the Scotland girls beat Ireland yesterday. Don't know if you saw that.
No, I don't watch cricket.
That is. Yeah. So So it was just to highlight any players who were in the red for that tournament, but then retrospectively, I'll look at it and getting all the data together. So I think it's a good opportunity, and that allows you to then present that to the medical team and say, look, out of the 16 players that we've scanned, this is what we found. Oral hygiene, X amount of players or X percentage of players had this. wisdom teeth, X, Y, and Z. A lot of things that we talk about when it comes to oral health screening, and being able to then present that in data properly to them, and then utilising that. I think that's where we need to kind of continue to look at. And I know Professor Ian Nealon was all about research, and he was saying we need to do more of that. So at least I managed to get a little bit of that going.
But you've got the data. You just have to
Yeah, that's it.
start
Yeah.
to analyze. The hardest bit is the data collection. Once you have it, it does take time to analyze it and write it up, but the hardest bit is actually collecting the data. So at least you have that bit done. And our good friend of the podcast, Abatal, she got some bad luck.
Yeah, she did. She unfortunately broke her hand in the warm-up games just last week. So friend in the show, Abtan, I saw her a few weeks ago when she was in for their oral health screening. So I did message her, and I was just like, I'm absolutely gutted for you, because, World Cup and home soil, she's absolutely devastated. But I believe she'll remain with the squad, and she'll be with the squad in terms of support, which is great, because I think there's nothing worse than being in the squad and then being told, see you later, like you're not. Yeah. Her replacements obviously come in, but the fact that she's able to experience that and being around, obviously she'd want to play, and we get that, but that's the nature of professional sport. And we talk about, you take your chances, and you need a bit of good luck, but also bad luck can come your way, and these things can happen. We don't know the reasons for it, and it may be just a total freak accident. And unfortunately for her, she's gonna miss out. But I think the fact that she's in and around the setup is great for her, and it's good for us, for our friends, to be involved. We can maybe at some stage get her back on to talk about how she felt about the news. We have talked to some of our athletes on the podcast about when they've had bad news or when they've been injured, and mentally the toll that takes on you to try and get through that. It's a lonely place when you're injured and you're trying to get back fit again. So it's interesting to see from a mental health perspective. So, how do you overcome that, and how do you look at the positives?
Yeah. Oh, another good friend of the podcast, I could see her putting her rehab up, Nadine Ruse. She got a bad knee injury as well this year. So
yeah.
She's in the road back as well. I've seen her doing some pretty heavy leg pressing this morning.
Yeah.
So she doesn't look too far away from coming back, but that is just the realities of sport, particularly elite sport injuries, and how that has an impact. So from our perspective, we're trying to prevent oral facial trauma injuries and oral disease from preventing them having an impact, but there's just so many injuries in sport that nothing's preventable.
No, it's not. And I think that's playing elite sport. You should be disappointed when you're injured, I think, because you want to be playing, you're getting paid to play, and in contracts, you might have a 2-year contract, and you're saying, well, if I'm not playing, then they might not renew my contract. It's tough, I suppose in a way, us being dentists, inverted commas, your jobs are quite safe and secure because dentists are required, you're needed. And, it's one of these things where you don't want to be worried about where your next paycheck's going to come from. And if you've got a really horrible injury, if you've got an Achilles problem or you've had a ACL tear or something, you're going to be out for a long period of time. It's the mental toughness to come back from that and get back to the same level you were at before. And we talked about mental health on this with Andy Murray when we were in Dubai, and he was talking about when you're away from your family as well, and how these players, how they cope with all that too, because they're on the road for so long. So it's the accumulation of lots of different things. And I think you can actually put that into our line of work as well, in terms of working in the practice and working in 4 walls all the time. You feel like it's only you that's going through this tough phase or tough period. And that's kind of why I suppose we're so passionate about trying to get involved with sports dentistry, because it gives us an ability to do something different that not a lot of people get to do, in terms of going abroad and doing international speaking or international, networking to extent where you're actually bridging the gap between the medics and the dental healthcare professionals. And you are almost kind of living a sports lifestyle through dentistry, if that makes sense, from what we're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to get as least time actually our hands down people's mouths.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Actually, a really good question that I was asked in an interview that's not out yet. It was out with some of our colleagues in Australia. He said, Umair, he's like, why, what would you say to people who just say this is just another association? So I'll ask you this question, right? So John, what would you say to people that this is just another association? why would they want to get involved with sports dentistry? What is that about? Like, is it not just the same as any other associations? It's maybe just another tick box exercise. How would you answer that question?
Well, I was actually thinking about that this week of the different sort of associations in England. And what it does, it gives you an opportunity to be with like-minded individuals. Like that's I find that's the biggest benefit of it. I was sitting in that 6.5 hour ASD board meeting on Wednesday. And I was thinking everybody that I'm in this meeting with are all the same as me. They're so passionate. They're obviously dentists, but they're passionate about sports and they really enjoy sports dentistry, and we're in it there to help the athletes and be involved. And it's the same as how we've got together to do the podcast. It's the same with the colleagues we've met at the 4SD and the group that we're putting together at the UK, and also what we've done out in South Africa. It's really, you're bringing together a network of like-minded people. And dentistry sometimes can be pretty boring. It's pretty repetitive. But sports, on the other hand, everybody loves sports. Everybody's excited about sports. And if we're able to combine the two, and then we build this network of like-minded people, it just makes our profession a lot more enjoyable, is what I think.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer, because that's something that I did mention, but my answer to that was basically, why not? There's an association for endo, there's an association for oral surgery, there's an association for all these other specialties or special interests within dentistry, and people don't know that you can actually do sports dentistry. Like, when they actually hear about, like, what do you mean you can do sports dentistry? Like, how is that even a thing? Like, how are you able to put those two together? And I think that's where it's really important that you're able to say you can do it, because there's other like-minded people out there just like you who want to be doing it, but you all need to kind of work together and do it for the greater good. And if you all work at having the same fire in your belly and having the same kind of vision, it's just amazing what you can achieve. And I think that's where we were quite lucky that, you know, many of our colleagues in the World WhatsApp group that we have, you know, they're willing to put themselves out there and you know, give a helping hand when you're trying to find a clinician in some part of the world to see an athlete or whatever else. But I think the fact that people now can see that you can do something out with clinical dentistry and dovetail it and do it with sports, I think it's only going to continue to build and it's only going to continue to grow. And I'm really excited to see what the next 50 episodes bring us in terms of the guests that we're going to get on. We've had some amazing dentists, had some amazing medics, athletes on the pod, you know, and we want to try and stretch that out as well in terms of who we're trying to bring on, but also in terms of how we're interviewing them and doing it live and having Phillips on board and the series of podcasts that we're hopefully going to be doing with them later on in the year, and really bringing a really educational feel to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're looking forward. We've kind of found our feet, I think, now a little bit more. We've went from audio to audio video as well, which we keep forgetting. I think that was a big step for us to learn how to do that as well. And now we've got the live podcast, and we've got this stuff that is getting cobwebs in my attic. The tablecloth and the hot pad for our live shows. It might. I don't think I'll make it to Glasgow, but we'll have to come out to Australia with us and say it.
Oh, definitely.
I might drop it off at your house. You can take it.
I think
I think we found our feet with the podcast a little bit, and we've got good ideas coming up, and we have a series coming up with Phillips as well, which we're planning to make that CPD and stuff as well. So there is some great options, and we did get a published article on the podcast in Rena's new journal that we just launched there a few weeks ago. So things are definitely, I think we're a little bit more comfortable. Still a lot of stuff goes on the background that's quite time consuming, like the editing and things like that. I'm sure you could happily see the back off.
Yeah.
But we're definitely getting a little bit slicker with this podcasting crack.
Yeah, I think because we're obviously doing it online and over this platform, you do see a lot of other people doing podcasts and they're sitting together, they're doing it in a studio and things like that. So I think the important thing is to continue having that voice and having the episodes coming out with the different guests. When we do live podcasts and we do a live series, it's about having the content and the educational part of it very engaging, and obviously the visuals are important too, so people can kind of see and put a name to a face. And I think we ran into that in Dusseldorf where people thought that I was you and you were me, so the other way around, which was quite funny, which was interesting. But I think they all well and truly know who's who now, so I don't think that's really anything we need to worry
That's why
about.
we started to get names on our t-shirts.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I think we've had that discussion with Phillips and about the educational series, and that's something really exciting. I think that's something that's going to hopefully grow as time goes on, and the next 50 episodes may take us very neatly and nicely to North Carolina next year if the timings work out. But I'm sure if we set out and we can make a good plan of action to see what other associations may want to bring us on board, because there has been a lot of chat recently about several other areas of the world. We don't want to just talk a good game, we want to be able to deliver. We want to be able to make sure that we are not just talking the talk. We would like to walk the walk as well. So I think that's really important that listeners know that.
We're definitely moving in the right direction. We'll have some big plans, and that would actually work out because next year's conference will be a year and 2 weeks away. So it gives us 4 weeks there.
Yeah.
Where we can slip up. So that could be a challenge that our 100th episode is around in North Carolina, but we'll see close to the time how that works out. But definitely, I think we've been talking about it for a while, but I definitely think for the 100th episode, we'll do a live event of some sort.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We talked about maybe doing it for, our 50th episode is a live event, but obviously on the back of the difficulties we've had with the just maybe trying to get the audio, that was a wee bit sticky. However, I think 100 is a different situation, and hopefully we'll still be mates by then. So who knows? We just need to make sure.
Yeah. Who knows?
We've still got to make sure we like each other with the amount of time we're spending away from home as well. So I think that's going to be important. But what do you hope to get out of the next 50 episodes there? What for you, if we look back on this episode that goes out and let's say we're sitting there at the 100th episode, what are you hoping to see in the next 50?
Well, what we've done so far is we've built quite a good lot of connections, and we've been able to bring stories that maybe that I knew or that you knew, but like everybody didn't know that they come across. So I think that's the thing is raising awareness. Like, so everybody hears some of the great stories. Like, for example, the story of Shaq getting his mouth guard.
Yeah,
in Orlando.
Yeah,
I kind of known that story because I'd done a bit of work with PPM and I'd heard Nell speak it, but like not many people would have known that. You didn't even know what PPM was at the time.
Yeah,
it's been a while. So it's things like that. And spreading these sports dentistry stories that only maybe a small number of our community have. Bring it to the world and bring the sports dentistry community closer and closer together. So I think we're definitely, if we looked at where we started this, which was shortly after the first UK Sports Dentistry Association when we just launched that was where the idea came from. And from that, if you look at how many new associations are involved, how many more associations we're involved with, South Africa, Australia, I think by the time we come to the 100th, I would like to think that we have built a really good sports dentistry community where stories can be shared and also we can grow as a profession.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, by the time the 100th episode comes, I think hopefully we'd have a really nice variety of guests that we've had on, and not just in the kind of avenues that I've already talked about in terms of medics and dentists and we've not had a nutritionist on yet. We've had physiotherapists on. It's one of these things. I just want to grow that community and just grow to see what it is that they're doing. Is there something that we're able to then collaborate with them and just get more stories where I might strike a chord with somebody listening and they might say, actually, well, I know this chiropractor who's heavily involved with this and I didn't really think that could work together. I think it's just about having that light bulb moment for someone listening And to get that feedback to then say, because I think a lot of people have said to us, like, what you guys, or the people that you've had on, or the conversation that you had with this person made me think I could be doing this over here and I can be doing it slightly differently, or certainly also open to feedback in terms of what we could be doing better. I think that's an important thing. Is so very well as saying that things are going well and we've improved, but we also need to know where we can get much better at, and whether that is the sort of questions that we're asking our guests or the sort of people that we're getting on. Is it audio? Do we need to look at translation service? Things that at the moment we're not really thinking about, but there could be some way we'll be able to tap into a bigger market with our potential South American friends who maybe English isn't their first language and they're able to listen to this in a translation type thing. So I think it's certainly something that we can look at. But if anybody does have any ideas of how we can improve things, definitely won't take it personally. I think it's more of one of these things where you're doing it for the benefit. You're not doing it to belittle you or to put you down, but actually to say, I think you guys should maybe do it this way, or you should maybe think about this. And I think if people want to see it grow and see it get better, then that's the sort of feedback that you want to be getting.
Yeah, definitely. Always off for constructive criticism. Mightn't always take it very well, but always up for it.
That's it. Yeah, true.
Well, great to catch up anymore. I know we don't maybe catch up as much on the pod anymore because we've moved to just doing the episodes now with the guests, but we'll maybe do a couple episodes like this throughout the year just so we can catch up and review and plan and chat about what's coming up in the world of sports dentistry.
Yeah, just so we can keep our episode numbers up.
Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah. Great. So until the next time,
yeah.
Hopefully by then you won't be crying because Morocco and Brazil have brought us back down to reality.
Hey, listen, we won. Just tell me what happened with Ireland. Yeah, you're not even there, mate.
Yeah,
so
we're not even there. And the team that got there instead of us, the Czech Republic, they lost their opener. So
that's right. Yeah. Against South Korea, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
listen,
very
can't
good. Yeah, good to catch up as always, mate. We'll chat to you soon.